cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife, leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Black and white. Oh, oh. Oh, oh. Just black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Black and white. Oh, oh. Oh, oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Good afternoon again, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to Simracersworld TV and the second part of the DynamiXX Endurance Series 12 Hours of Spa. My name is, well, unfortunately for you, still Chaz Draycott, and I am delighted to be joined for part 2 of this mammoth broadcast by the wonderful Markus Gjesdal. Markus, it's actually our first time working together here on Simracersworld TV in the commentary box, and it's a bit of a fitting time to do it, isn't it, really? Signing off with our debut together. How are you doing?
I'm really looking forward to this event. It's been 1 month in the making already, and I think it's only appropriate that we at least get to do one broadcast together before signing off this channel. Having done most of my commentators' endeavors with the great Dane himself as a rummer, and yeah, just finishing it on a high 12-hour race at Spa Francorchamps. You cannot get better than that, and yeah, endurance racing is usually always the best kind of racing. So, really looking forward to sit the next few hours out here with you. And unfortunately, I have to go a little bit early, but that's how it is sometimes. I would have loved to stay here until the end of my planned stint, but at least we'll get some endurance racing in now.
Well, that's it, mate. Like we've been saying, me and Ed, throughout the first sort of couple of hours, you know, real life always comes first, and we will never bat an eyelid at that. We are now just about to hit 3 hours through of this race, and Scott McFall leads the race. Fantastic stuff once again by this Vibe BMS Esport team from Sim District, as I completely butcher the team name. They're still doing the fuel saving, as they always are doing. Flemish Sim Sports were second, but Martin Deckens has just brought the car into the pit lane, so he's currently, this is not Robin van Gogh, it's Martin Deckens, who is currently dragging it in. Dieter de Vlaminck has got that updated, beautiful livery on his car. We are going to have to, unfortunately, go to local connection again on this, because it seems like SDK is struggling to deal with all of the people doing the Nürburgring, because let's face it, they've got a lot to deal with. 3 hours done. Dieter de Vlaminck continues to be in third place in the gorgeous McChallenge car, but then Hans Damians, he's got his hands full here with Robin van Gogh in the Vibe BMS Esports Audi, which we do now have a full livery on, and my God, it does look good. Ed wasn't lying, was he, Markus?
I'm happy that you can see anything at all, but the SDK issues are spreading throughout as of right now, so I'm actually struggling a little bit with trying to get the system up and running. So as of right now, I'm just getting a beautiful shot of La Source, so I'm going to try and see if I can't reset anything here and get the live pictures.
Fair enough then. Fair enough. Well, it's currently a big battle going on between this Sim District by BMS Esport NL car. Hans Damian's just in front in second place for Decimo BE. And the Audi versus the Porsche, two very different cars, one with a 5.2 litre V10, the other with a wonderful, I believe it's the 4 litre flat 6 that's in the back of the 911 GT3R. But right now, that number 2 Audi, which was very strong early on, looking very fast now as well. Hans Damian's holding on, though, for Decimo BE. Currently the team third in the championship, hoping to hold on to that ahead of the Flemish car, which is currently second on the road after another pit stop. We'll have to see how that develops, but look, down the inside, actually, Robin van Gogh puts his nose down there in La Source, gets alongside as they make their way down the hill now. This is going to be feisty. We've got the Decimo BE car still on the left-hand side. Hans Damians does not want to back out of it. They go side by side through a Rouge. The back end of the Audi steps out as they go over Radion, but manages to just about hold it. Wow. Very scary close stuff as of this moment. We'll have to see exactly what the boys can manage down into Le Comp. Nothing doing there, though. Hans Damian's now just behind. Well. It can change quite suddenly in this sort of racing, no matter what. It may be a longer race, doesn't mean that positions don't change. And it doesn't mean that everybody sort of sits in the same order all the time. And look, you can hear the revs really drop in the Audi there. It looked like he went in a little bit too hot, actually, to be honest with you. I'll have to see whether there is a move made by the Decimo car, and there is. Through they go.
Right. So that was just a quick blemish on my part, not getting the right settings on SDK, and I shouldn't blame the Nürburgring 24-hour for that, but I'll do it regardless.
Same.
That's the motorsport excuse, or the motorsport way to do things. Just have an excuse for everything.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's mildly your own fault, blame it on something else.
So you're seeing Robin van Gogh right now in the Audi.
That is correct. That beautiful R8 chasing the 451 911 GT3 of Hunt's Diamonds.
And he's
actually gained 6 positions since the start of this race as well. So some of it maybe from some of the accidents we've seen throughout the start of this race, but still, nonetheless, a very good start here from the opening parts of this race. Only 3 hours in now.
Well, that's it. But I mean, at the end of the day, 3 hours. We are a quarter of the way through the race. Actually, it's quite incredible to think that so much time has passed already. But Robin van Gogh continues to chase down Hans Damians, and I'm intrigued to see whether he will go for the move again right now down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion. And we've seen a few drivers so far, haven't we, Markus, that have really they play it safe in the opening couple of corners just to make sure they get this run down the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, there's no need to try and pass up in La Source. You'll ruin your exit speed, and you just want to have the slipstream all the way down from the first corner into like calm right over here. And you can see Robin van Gogh as well setting up the move here. Actually went quite nicely past the 451. So it's just about trying to get that good exit there and get some good top speed and not compromise yourself on the exit, because it's a very, very long straightaway, especially in the GT3 cars. If you don't get a good toe, then you're gonna have to struggle for another full lap. And it's 7 kilometers here at Spa, and it'll really tear you down, especially using up your tires if you can't really get one move to stick in the first go.
Yeah, it can be very, very difficult because, I mean, me and Ed were talking about the tyres around this circuit. It's a very high-speed circuit, most of it. Really average high speed throughout a lap. A lot of these corners are very, very quick. They may not look that fast in relative terms with each other, like Piff Path, the chicane here, but still, you are doing a hell of a lot of speed through there. You're still doing 60, 70 miles an hour through corners like that. And even here as well, Campus, you carry a lot of speed over, use the curb on the left-hand side. You're pretty much flat through the right-hander here before Blanchimont. It really hurts the tyres, and a lot of it obviously is on the front left. It is a clockwise circuit like most racing circuits are in the world, but that front left tyre is the one that takes all the punishment here. But you have to also consider your rear tyres. We've seen a number of drivers before, haven't we, where they just light up the rears that little bit on corner exit, and over the course of a race that can shred them to bits.
Yeah, knowing sim races as well, it's not uncommon to put a lot of camber in the tires as well in these setups to try and make them go really fast per lap. But in hindsight, you'll start wearing out your tires, like you're saying, and you'll start having problems like that as well, especially if you're coming through Blanchimont, which is a very, very fast, and if you've set the car properly, flat out corner, and the shift in balance can really offset you when you get into that section of the track, and maybe the wear is a little bit more than anticipated, and you'll maybe lift the throttle too much and then lock the diffs a little bit and then just send yourself into spin, which we've seen a few times already in the first opening stints of this race.
We have indeed. It's certainly shaken things up a bit with people having incidents and so on. We look back at the leader, Scott McFall. Just wanted to show everybody at home the stints here and how they're spreading out. We've had a few drivers and teams have their most recent pit stops. 27 and 28 laps, though, at a time for the Sim District guys, while the others are doing 24, 25 or 26 laps. So they're always getting 1 or 2 more laps than everybody else out per stint. You can see right now he's on the 25th lap of this stint. It's so important to keep doing that. You always see in endurance racing, teams want to go for a bit of a risky strategy like this, maybe push the fuel for a bit longer in the race, dependent on their position. But, I mean, when you're in a position like these guys are right now, you have to stay committed to it, don't you? Once you choose the strategy, no matter what goes on around you, you've got to stick to it, haven't you? Otherwise, it won't work.
Yeah, the only reason you want to adapt is if there's a safety car or something like that, and that never happens on iRacing. The other thing is maybe if it starts raining, that's when you want to start shifting your strategy a little bit to try and get a hand over the competitors that you're racing. But before you brought me in here and before we started commentating here together, Chaz, I noticed that a lot of drivers here are pulling the clutch as they're going down the Kemmel Straight, saving as much fuel as they can.
Yeah.
So trying to get those fuel numbers is absolutely crucial, especially if you're the 3 or 2 car team, seeing Scott now going in for his mandatory stop here. If you are maybe 3 drivers and 2 of your drivers are really good with fuel saving and the one driver isn't as good as it, you need to make sure that you have at least few few meters distance in a buffer before you change to the driver who's maybe using a little bit more throttle or fuel per lap, so that you can still keep that advantage when you're shifting drivers and maybe your competitor is shifting to a more economically fit driver.
Yeah, that's it. I
mean, to answer your message, yes. seeing the same message, the same picture as you.
Okay, that's all good then. Because again, just to explain to everybody, with the way that SDK works, basically, it's an incredible bit of software where we use a timing screen essentially to choose what we're looking at. You know, you click on the driver's name and whatever, and then it changes what car we're looking at in the sim. It's incredible because it means that we don't have to have the overlay and everything up and do it manually with Control C and V and whatever else. But also at the same time, when I click a car and it tells my sim which one to look at, when Markus is connected to the same thing, it tells his sim what to do as well. So we look at the same cars at the same time. Now, with us having to use, with me as well, I'm using a local connection right now on this. So the basically the actual timing software and the overlay that you're all seeing is only coming through because it's picking it up off my PC. So I wasn't sure what was being relayed to Markus and what's not. So we're just still sort of delving into how that is working at this point, because I've not actually used the local connection thing before. But as long as we're seeing the same thing, it's all good. So right now we're looking at Gus Franken as it's just changed.
Yeah, that's great. And he's got this number 3 Porsche behind as well.
He does indeed. Christoph Willems in the Tri-Racing Porsche. A car that's had a very, very tough season, to be honest. It's one of the best looking cars in the field, but coming into this race, they find themselves down in the championship in... Well, they were 15th coming into this one. A couple of rounds where they only scored 2 points. Round 2, they didn't score any points at all. They've had a bit of a tough season. Their first race was actually their best. 10 points in the opening round. I mean, if they finish where they are right now, which is 10th position, because of the double points, they'll actually get 8 points. So they're not even going to improve on their best result, or best score at least, if they currently finish here. So, oh, sorry, no, they would get 16 points, wouldn't they? Because it's double. Shut up, Chaz. This would be their best score. But for most teams, it will be their best score, I imagine.
Yeah, double points always help in the championship. To be completely honest, I haven't really looked much at the results. I'm just here as an avid fan, just enjoying endurance racing, to be completely honest.
I don't blame you, though. You know, endurance racing it's such a niche for some people. You know, it depends on what I'm watching. I mean, I've had the pleasure in my commentary career to so far have covered a number of very odd 24-hour events, let's say, a mix of them. The first one I ever did, which was my first real-world gig, was the Buckmore Park 24 Hours, which was a karting event in rental carts. That was hilarious fun. There was a few hours during the night where me and the director had a bit of fun sourcing locally sourced, like, cake bars and things, and trying them out as an ASMR hour on air, which turned into a bit of a laugh. And then I've also commentated on the Citroen 2CV 24 Hours at Snetterton in real life, and then even the Citroen C1 24 Hours at Silverstone, which was, you know, both hilarious, both great fun.
Is that the B0 Championship? Isn't it what it's called? At least over here we have something similar to it, which is basically really, really small hot hatches.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's a 24-hour race of those at Silverstone. I think we had 80 of them.
I actually tried to. I was looking into getting a seat in one of those cars, and they actually have one of these races at Spa as well.
Yes, they do.
They have several different national championships, and they just merged them into one huge event. I think there's like 60 cars or something during one race. It's absolutely nuts, and I can't believe how they even get up the hill here at Eau Rouge in. I think they were like 90 horsepower. So you'll have to get a pretty good push from the exit of turn 1 here, especially if you want to get all the way up to the Camel Straight.
Yeah, they're interesting cars because they are very momentum based, but even then they don't have much of that, to be honest with you. I remember a few years ago at the Silverstone event, the 24 Hours of Silverstone, I think it was the car that started 99th on the grid and rolled twice during the race, ended up winning. Which is
sounds about right.
Quite an achievement in itself, to be honest with you. But then again, that's part of the niche that is endurance racing. But you know, when you see world-class cars like these GT3 cars that we get to cover here, your LMP machines, and even when you get the multi-class racing as well, like you see in the World Endurance Championship, it's such a fantastic form of racing because it's not just about pace. There's so many elements to it, and there's longer for things to go right, and of course longer for things to go wrong, isn't there?
Yeah, one contrast we can bring in right now is for the people who remember the 2016 final hour of the Le Mans 24 hours, where the Toyota ended up breaking down just before the finish line, which was absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like that through my years as a motorsport fan, and I haven't seen anything since. And those things happen in endurance racing. You know, it's not the 23 hours and a half, it's the 24 hours of Le Mans, and it's the same thing here. It's 12 hours of Spa, and you have to be perfect every single hour. You cannot miss a single point of the track, because if you do that, you'll have a spin and you'll crash out, you'll destroy your car. And you know, luckily now in the sim you can rebuild your car, especially these GT3 cars have got a pretty hefty update on iRacing, which allows them to pretty much rebuild the entire thing after you've hit a wall, like some people have done in Blanchimont. And you can return back to racing, which is also what happens in real life. So say that maybe I'm not going to jinx anyone, so I'm just going to say one car here in the field, which is still running, crashes out. There's still a plausible chance for one of the 3 retirements here to regain that spot if they decide to fix their car and get back out here. So endurance racing is all about just trying to keep your pace going every single lap. Try and, you know, if you have a fluctuation of around 3 to 5 seconds per lap, you know, it's okay if you're not chasing for a win, but just stick in there and try and avoid incidents and, you know, engine malfunctions or anything like that, because if you can get away with that, you're in a much better shape than a lot of other drivers.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, you have to not worry too much about a little bit of fluctuation, as you say. That's definitely the right way of looking at it, because you have to deal with more traffic in a race like this. You know, there's more time for the tyres to go off, for the fuel to make a difference to the car. The different drivers as well. You know, I mean, we've got a wonderful element of endurance racing is the fact that you could have 3, maybe even 4 drivers in certain cars, and to be honest, some of them can vary in pace quite a lot. And we see that before in, I mean, any endurance series that I've covered previously, I've seen that sort of difference in pace. You know, in more rookie-based series as well. You know, I've had a series, I can't remember which series it was now. I was trying to remember as I was saying it out loud, but there's a few series I've covered before where, you know, that one driver in a team would be, like you said, 3 or 4 seconds off the pace of his teammates, but like every lap. You know, and it's quite a lot to see, but what they had to remember was that while that may have been a bit disheartening for the driver in question and for the team thinking, oh, it's a shame, but, you know, we're enjoying ourselves, the other teams were having that as well. You know, they weren't the only ones with that variation, and that's what you have to be very level-headed in this game, don't you, in the world of endurance racing?
Yeah, you cannot come into an endurance race and think you're going to be perfect every lap. It's impossible. I don't think I've ever been in an endurance race where I've tried to hit the same target lap time every single lap, because, you know, either you're getting past or you're about to get past, or you're passing someone, and there's always going to be traffic. There's always going to be something happening. These guys have a huge luxury of only being 10 cars on track right now. Usually GT3 races on this track, especially the 24 hours of Spa, I remember you and Ed were talking a little bit about the one which happened to go without any incident points. I didn't compete in that one, but I did compete in the event the year after. I think it's 2020.
Yeah.
Regardless, you know, we were doing pretty well for our car, I'd say, and we were getting good laps, and, you know, stuff happened. Our teammate Bruno Carnero, I think a lot of people know him from streaming iRacing content. This is before he started getting a little bit bigger on Twitch. He started the race for us in the 24 hours, and usually these huge endurance races from iRacing, they draw a lot of competitors. There's a lot of people driving at once, and I think there were around 50 to 60 cars on track during that event. and Bruno came out here, you know, doing the first opening stint, and, you know, everything was well and good. He's a very talented driver, but he decided to go full send on the first lap, and luckily not in turn 1, but in Les Combes on the exit of that corner, he rotated the car, and I think about 20 cars got collected into that shunt. My point is, we kept the car going. There was a few problems with the chassis not really adjusting well to the damage by all the hits, but the car was straight, and it was fine, but we took some really solid hits to the front, to the rear, and in iRacing, you get damage from that, not just on the chassis side, but you'll actually damage components of your engine. So I'm not sure what broke on our Ferrari, but I was out for double stint, and the engine just shut off, just blew up right in front of my face. And for people who don't really do iRacing a lot, you know, the closer you are to the pit, the slower or the faster the toll will take. That's basically, you press a button, the simulator puts you back in the pits, and you have a penalty of around, you know, a few minutes.
Yeah.
Try and get the car back to simulate, you know, marshals getting the car back on fast track and then moving it into the pits. And I was trundling, I think, around 40 kilometers an hour, and the lucky part was that we were up at Lake Holm, so we were just trundling down from the top of Lake Holm, and you know, when you're trundling down around 80 kilometers an hour in a GT3 car with other drivers going full pace, you know, it was scary because they didn't want to leave you a single inch, even for a 24-hour race. So those are the sort of things that you might experience in a 24-hour race, is somebody blowing an engine, and yourself maybe blowing an engine, and then having to try and get through traffic without getting more damage to your car. And I actually recall watching a stream from that race as well, and we were getting pretty cussed out from an Italian driver who didn't want to slow down from the yellow flags. So.
Oh, it's those Italians, mate. They're feisty.
Yeah,
feisty.
They are.
But still,
I was in the way. I'll say that. I'll admit that. But I was in the right end of the track. So I won't take any blame for that.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, like you say, it's part of the dynamic in endurance racing, where you have these moments where, you know, your race could go completely to pot early on. I mean, look, in this race we had Paul Rieger, bless him, in the Porsche Sport 911, lost it on the the end of the opening lap, took multiple cars with him, and it was a massive shunt. He went back from there, carried on, but then he made the same mistake, unfortunately, a bit later on in the race. And it's so easy to do that, you know, because if you make a mistake early on in a race and put yourself on the back foot, you're going to feel like you are driving on the back foot straight away. You know, you're going to drive angry, you're going to push too hard, aren't you?
Not just that, you can really dishearten yourself as well, and lose all self-confidence that you've built up throughout the practice and preparation of an event. And when that happens, it gets really hard, as you say, to drive the car, even though the setup is perfect and the wheels are perfect and everything, because it will feel like something is wrong all the time. One of the things with simulators is that you don't get an assurance if something is actually fixed. You can't put the car into the garage and have a team of mechanics look over it and be like, yeah, no, that angle is all right, this angle is all right, or have at least somebody tell you that, no, this is actually bent. So you'll go out back on track again, and you'll start looking for maybe symptoms that aren't even there, and you'll have all these thoughts in your head, and if you haven't really gone through a lot of mental training, that can really set you up for failure, not just a few hours back, but, you know, just a few laps ahead. And it's just all about, you know, after you've had an incident like that, just clear your head and try and get over it and focus on the task you're doing.
Well, that's it. I mean, I've had a few races before, and especially on iRacing as well, you know, you're not just in a game against AI or anything like that, like I used to be on my PlayStation when I was younger, you know, playing the old Tucker 2, things like that. You know, I'm not just sending John Cleland at Silverstone. You know, you're actually in this race, invested in it with the physical input to the wheel, the pedals, all of it. It's very realistic. And when you do have a moment that takes you out of a race, it is so disheartening, because you think, well, that's my chance of this one gone. You know, there's no restarts, there's no messing about or anything like that. It's just happened, and that's it. You know, it's very, very savage. And I had the pleasure a few weeks ago, or last weekend actually, to be at Donington Park for Sports 2000 Championships. But a few friends of mine were racing in the Enduro KA Championship, and they were saying about the fact that, you know, it sucks in sim racing when you have a moment and you have an accident or a spin, or you lose time because of something. But then for them, a lot of these guys, to come from sim racing, as they had done, to then have their first race in person, you know, they witness the emotions in real racing. And it's just so, it's even worse, you know, it's amplified 10 times over, because you've spent the money to get there, you've actually physically got the car ready, you've physically got the gear and all that, and you've actually travelled to the circuit and so on, been through all the processes. It's not just sitting in your sim rig at home, you know, it's worlds apart even again. and it adds more to the weight of the emotion, doesn't it?
Yeah. So one of the good things with sim racing is that if you end up crashing your car, the fridge isn't really far off, and you can go and get a cold one immediately. It's a lot harder in real life, because if you end up having a problem, say for example in Pohon, you'll have to wait for the car to get back as well, and get it into the transport, and then, you know, pack all the things. It's the worst thing when you have to retire an event early, because, you know, you put everything, or you don't put anything back in the trailer, sorry, you throw everything into the trailer.
Yeah.
And you just try and get out there as quick as you can, because, you know, you don't want to be at an event anymore. You just want to try and get away from all the sounds and stuff, and try and reflect on what happened, and try and build on that a little bit, and then get ready again for the next event.
Yeah, that's it completely. And, you know, like you were saying, the fridge isn't far away if you do want to go and grab a cold one. But either way, we hope that the teams and drivers out there still continue to enjoy this event. I'm sure that Scott McFall and Olivier Bultink they've had a bit of a Sebastian Vettel early 2010s kind of race, haven't they? They just sort of put it on pole. Not by a lot either. It was 20 thousandths of a second, even around Spa. That's a tiny advantage. And from this point onwards, they've just driven away. You know, they've done it once again, as they have done previously. And they've won every race so far this season. Looks like, at the moment, touch wood for them, this is not any different. Martin Deckens and the Flemish SimSports team were chasing them down really, really aggressively early on, but they have now fallen 44 seconds back. 53 seconds is then the gap back to this wonderful yellow Audi, the Dieter de Vlaming challenged by DB car. They're probably my team of the race so far, if I must be honest with you, Markus, because starting 9th on the grid, yeah, it's not a massive field to make your way through, but with how competitive it is and how many elements there are to this race, they've done a good job to gain 6 spots so far.
Endurance racing is never easy, even if it's 10 cars or 50 cars. So it's a huge challenge for these drivers who are still in the race here to try and just pick up the pieces that they have now and try and make the most of it. That huge gap there between the first place and second place could diminish really, really fast if something happens. And, you know, they have the luxury, as I said, to not have much traffic on the track, but, you know, something can always happen on a racetrack like Spa.
Yeah, that's it. It's not a forgiving circuit, as Ed and I discussed earlier on. You know, so much of it there are so many corners that can really bite you. I mean, Puon especially, as you mentioned. Piff Paff as well, you know, the weight transfer of the car going one way then the other, even just through there, especially in a car like the Lamborghini or the Audi, especially the Porsche as well with the engine so far back. You get that pendulum effect, don't you?
Yeah, there's a beautiful corner though, Campos, which I call it, that leads into the Stavel and Paul Ferrer section, and straight away into Blanchimont, which I'm actually afraid of. I don't like Blanchimont in these cars. The Campos is alright, but Blanchimont, no. Especially if you have a very loose setup, you'll lose the car there pretty fast.
Oh yeah, definitely. And corners like that and 130R. You know, I used to race the Audi in a sim racing league, and we used to do sprint racing in GT3 cars, which isn't something you see them doing a lot often. We'd have a British Touring Car Championship style 3 races a night with reverse grids and all sorts, and in all 3 races I ploughed the car into the right hand side wall at 130R because the back end stepped out, tried to kill me, and yeah, I ended up on my roof in all 3 as well. It didn't just sit against the wall, it rolled over.
It's an incredibly slick curve as well. If you go wide a little bit there on the exit, it'll send you out. As well as the curb is actually a little bit offset from the ground, so you'll have a few millimeters clearance from the curb to the ground. So if you hit that wrong, it'll be Mick Schumacher into the Conquer Barrett Jetta completely.
Definitely will be. You can see in the bottom right of our screens here, Hans Damians and Robin van Gogh are only about 4.6 seconds apart at the moment. This battle's still going on. Hans Damians isn't quite out of touch with the number 2 Audi at the moment, although when I click that it does change to 9.2 seconds, but that's just one of those things. It will recalculate the next time they trigger any of the sector beams, but there are a few cars and teams in this race, aren't there, Markus, that are sort of staying magnetised to one another. They're not too far apart. I mean, even if we look at this, look, Christoph Willems in the Tri-Racing machine, he's got the McChallenge by DB Audi, only 1.2 seconds behind.
Yeah, it's pretty good just to try and keep that pace there, and it's also not so lonely for the boo over here that I can have someone to follow along, which is often a huge relief actually. I'd say in some of these endurance races to have somebody to follow, not so much lead. Uh, so I think he's pretty comfortable where he's sitting at right now in P10, which is 2 laps behind our leader, which can quickly change to the other end.
Yeah, it can do indeed. And one thing is, again, coming back to the mental game and the different elements of sim racing and endurance racing, you have to make sure that you're not disheartened by the fact that there are cars 2 laps ahead of you or even just a lap ahead of you. You have to keep pushing. Me and a few friends did the Spa 24 Hours in 2016. I think we were 5 laps off the car ahead, but all it took was one big incident for them, and that was it. We got it back.
Yeah, I think the best thing about endurance races, especially the Spa 24 Hours, is if you end up having an incident where it costs you a lot of laps, it sucks that you have to try and rebuild all that gaps that you had. But I don't think there's any feelings that I have that are more satisfying in sim racing, other than doing an immensely cool overtake on somebody, or just in general overtaking somebody. It's actually passing someone who you started lapping after you're done with your repairs and gotten the pace back up again, and starting to see you climbing up on the leaderboards. There's no better feeling in an endurance race than coming back after an incident or something that's taken a long time to get you back on track.
Yeah, it's very, very true. Very, very true. And I always say in motorsport, one of the most important things is not whether an incident has happened or whether you've made a mistake. It's how you bounce back from it. People remember the comeback from things like that. Some of the best drives that I'm sure both of us have seen in the real world of motorsport come off the back of an incident or some sort of setback. Putting a driver where they wouldn't normally be in a field a bit further down and then watching them come through. I mean, look at one of my favourite drives of all time was Lewis Hamilton a few years ago. I think he won the German Grand Prix from 16th on the grid, was it? Something like that?
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, it was.
His car broke down in the qualifying.
Just moments like that. I'm a Hamilton fan, so that's just maybe a slight bias. But even on my own commentary ventures on Clio Cup last year, we had a driver called Gabriele Torelli who started, I think, 25th on the grid. No, actually, it was raining, and it started raining on the warm-up lap at the Hungaroring. Everyone came in. They announced they were going to do another warm-up lap. Him and his teammate stayed on slicks. He was 25th by the end of the first lap, and then with 10 minutes to go, it started drying up all of a sudden and warming up. And he went from, I think he got to 18th after making a few places, and he won the race within a couple of laps from 18th. And, moments like that make it so exciting.
It's very gutsy as well to try and start a race on slicks when it's raining, especially if you don't have any pit stops, because you're so reluctant on having, following your gut feeling and really recognizing that, okay, this could actually be a completely different race than what everyone else thinks. And getting the right tire for that, especially if you have locked sets, you can't use more than, say, 1 set per day, and you have just 1 race set or 1 wet tire set. If you start burning up your wet tires in one race, if it starts raining again here, you're kind of set yourself up for failure for the next part of the event.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And again, it's all just about these different levels to a race like this, and just making sure that you do your very best in each one of them. So far, doing their best though. Sim District GT3 by Vibe BMS Esports still leading the way. Martin Deckens of Flemish Sim Sports in second place. They've got nearly a minute over Dida de Vlaming, but I'm sure that the McChallenge by DB squad will not mind. The gap between Hans Damons and Robin van Gogh has now gone over 5 seconds, so Robin is certainly moving well in that Audi. 8.2 seconds off Dida de Vlaming though. Do you think that's going to be a gap that comes down? Because that number 2 car's had some pace.
It could be. It's just about him trying to not use too much of his tires up right now. There could be opportunities here. 2:18.6 on the last lap time. He's quicker in every sector but the first sector right now, I can see on live timing. And if he starts picking up tenths in every single sector like he's doing right now, this is going to be diminishing quite fast there for the Vlaming.
Yeah, indeed. If he keeps this pace up, it will certainly be a big change, and that will then put 2 Sim District cars on the podium, which I'm sure they will be very happy about, because let's not forget that early on in the race this car was in 2nd position with their teammate leading the way, so they'll want to get back to that sort of order at the top end of the field. And well, it'd be great for Sim District to take a 1-2 to round out their championship, especially with one of them on the brink of winning the title. Just going to do a quick update as well on the points situation and just see in terms of who is where and what this leaves them with points in the championship, because I did make a spreadsheet.
I think we've had actually a problem for the Boover right now, just breaking quite early. Navarro's gone off track a little bit.
Now I've got that he went off earlier.
Okay, so that's just the that's the track limits, not, or maybe he's just actually gone off the track there and taken an off track, and that's registered an event in the leader.
Yeah, bit of an odd one. That's the thing. I mean, me and Ed again were talking about the off tracks earlier on. You know, iRacing changing the track limits on a lot of different parts of the circuit. It can certainly shake things up for a number of people, depending on what they're used to, the muscle memory of a track. But I guess sometimes that's just, well, that's just part of racing. You know, even in the real world, you do get every single time you go into a driver's briefing or anything like that. You know, maybe whoever is the race director for the day will tell you something different to the last time you were there.
It's recognizable. Happened quite a few times. Actually, at one time we were doing a karting race and we got a strict message from race control to do not show the international sign of displeasure to the other drivers, or else you could get fired or disqualified from the race.
The international sign of displeasure, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way of saying it, actually. That is a very, very good way of saying it. We all know what it is, and John Cleland once used it to say that he was going for first, according to the great Murray Walker. But even still, yeah, it's a good thing, I think, in the sim. There's no button mapped to be able to do that, but I think that could be quite funny if people did that.
I would love to have it, at least a fist. I think it would be very useful, especially in open wheel cars sometimes.
Well, I remember in some of the recent F1 games, like every time there's contact, I think your driver puts his hand up in the air, doesn't he, and sort of says like, "What are you doing?" But
the best part is when you actually realize you're at the fault yourself, and then you're like, you know, you just have to put your hand up.
Yeah,
that was all on you.
Yeah, you can absolutely drill the car in front of you, and your driver in the sim is going, "What?" And it's like, "No, mate, don't even dare question that." But it's funny when they do it and they're changing up a gear. That's when I find it funny. But anyway, we could pick holes in sims for absolutely hours. Ed says he would use the button constantly. I think that'd be great. You know, like Markus said there. You know, just a fist. You know, nothing too untoward. But it's like the flashing your lights button. I know people that have got macros where they set something off on a button box and it's constantly pressing it. I think it was in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup support race recently, the All Stars at Silverstone. I think it was what's his name? Casey Kerwin was chasing somebody down for the lead, and we were looking back from the car in front of him, and he basically just used a macro and just held the button down the whole time, and he was just flashing for a whole lap. It was pretty incredible, to be fair. But
it's so perfect as well, because people get so upset about it all the time, and I've constantly wondered why is it so bad when people start flashing their lights, because I mean, honestly, it's a feature in the game, and it's there to be used, and if you need to, you know, just press it, and if it upsets you, you know, find a different sim.
Well, yeah, very true. You know, there are certain sims that have a lot of things mapped, and other ones do and don't, where you can go into so much detail, like ACC. I know you can indicate and so on. iRacing, we've actually had it on a lot more cars now where you can activate the wipers, and that's going to be interesting moving forward, isn't it?
Use the wiper as an international sign of displeasure. Just now following the number 4 here of Dide de Vlaming. Not sure if I'm butchering that name or not, hopefully not. Usually I don't like being on that end of things as a Norwegian with a hard to pronounce last name by Americans especially. Not to throw them under the bus. looking good so far. If you have a look at his sector times, 2:17.1. Last lap time 2:16.9. So the 2 car here of Robin van Gogh is closing in a little bit, ever so slightly, 7.9 off right now. While we have the P8 car of Lucas Romano in the 626 Audi, which I think looks absolutely fantastic today. The silver with red accents and coming through here, trying to unlap himself. And he's got really good pace right now, and I wonder if that could be something to do with having taken tires on his last stop here, Lucas. Certainly a long stop to 137 in the last pit lane. If we compare that to our leader one, Penn, in his pits, could be a little bit of a tire mix up here. And naturally, in these endurance races, you want to try and save as much tires as you can throughout the remainder of the race. If you can have as least pit stops as you can throughout the event, that's usually going to set you up in the best path. Unless you're losing too much time, of course. A really good pace now from the 626, which is now, he is 1 lap back. So once he's passed this car, is just a few positions away from the leaders, and you know, this could be a strategy which has offset them a little bit now and could put them in a good path of getting back into, especially the lead lap and maybe even the top 5 here competitively now after 3 hours and 40 minutes in.
So, the number 4 machine has a bit of company right now in the form of Lucas Romano in the 626 car, but Lucas is, well, no immediate threat to them, to say the least, as of this moment in time. He's a lap down on them, but to be honest, sticking together throughout this, it can help. You know, I mean, it keeps him up to pace. He knows what the guys a bit further ahead are doing. It keeps him in touch in terms of the slipstream as well. You know, he can basically drag him around for a bit, and I'm sure that the RP Motorsport Verde guys will not mind a bit.
Yeah, and you and Ed made a huge point earlier in the broadcast here as well, that when you get into slipstream here, iRacing calculates fuel usage by throttle. So how much throttle you have throughout the lap is what's gonna cost you fuel mileage. For Lucas's part, he is now in the slipstream of car number 4, and essentially, if he wants to, I was speculating if he's just taking tires now, the 626, which has put him on a better pace than a lot of the other drivers in the field. But if they like to right now, they can save the tires, and they can also save more fuel now, just riding behind the 4 car here, and try to lift a little bit, lift the coast early on into the braking zones and get those extra few liters of fuel, which could set you up for a good finish. But it looks like he's about to try and unlap himself. He's got a huge run out of Radion.
Yeah, easy to get that run as well when you hang back far enough. We saw guys earlier on in the race, I think it was Bavo Follen, that was just behind, I think it might have been Jesse Hendricks or one of the Dynamics Pink drivers anyway, earlier on, and we saw him come out of the slipstream on purpose as they went down the hill towards the Rouge, and then he, at the last moment, then tucked back in behind him as they went up the hill, because then he knew that he would lose time going down the hill. He let off a little bit, so he'd have a bigger slingshot down the Kemmel Straight, and it's that sort of quick thinking that can make all the difference in these races where slipstream and those sorts of quick thinking moments are more important, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Especially in cars that are so equally paced as our GT3 cars here in general. We're going to try and time the move, actually maybe a corner before, if you're going to make a move at the end of the straightaway. Have some thought into the move you want to make, and not do anything on impulse, because if you do that, you'll start making mistakes and you can eventually crash your car as well.
Well, yeah, that's it. You can't push too hard, and you have to pick your battles. I mean, right now, you know, if Lucas really wanted to push, I imagine he could probably use the slipstream to get past Dida de Vlaming, but he knows that it's not his fight at the minute. You know, there's no point in going for it and pushing the move. He may as well
He's also on pace right now, so he doesn't have to do anything. You know, most of the drivers, except for the leader, is doing 217s now, actually. No, sorry, 218s. So 2:19s now for Lucas, and he's actually a little bit faster as well than, is he? No, 2:20.3 now on this lap, 2:20.14. So yeah, he's holding pace right now, just holding his ship and trying to get the most out of this tank as possible.
Yeah, that's it. Every single lap has to be utilised. Robin van Gogh comes into the pit lane. We'll have a very, very quick look at what their pit strategy was like compared to the car behind them, which is just coming in right now, and that is Damien's, and you can see it changing there. They've both had a 19-lap stint at some point because of incidents through Blanchimont. Now, they've both done 25 and 26 laps each. They both switch over drivers as well. Joshua Campfield gets into the Sim District Audi. Now, he's a driver that we did not have on our list. Bavo Follen gets back into the Decimo BE car. So we'll have to see how these two get on with each other. They've been a couple of seconds apart for the last few laps, though. I think it was over 5 seconds anyway that the Sim District NL machine was going. So they've been doing all right. We'll have to see how much that stays like that.
Yeah, here's also a good time to time a 4-tire stop as well. Looking like both cars now trying to get a new set of rubbers on. I think this is going to be around 1:37 because that's usually where the other drivers have been with their stops.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
we'll see in a little bit.
And yeah, 1:11 for Josh Campfield, and it's 1:08.8 for Bavo Follen. So Bavo nowhere near as long, 3 seconds less. Well, 2.6 seconds less, but still that can make all the difference on track. We see them come back out, and the gap is only 3 and a bit seconds, as you see on the battle box in the bottom right there.
Yeah, it could also be that he took a little bit less fuel. Maybe he saved more coming into the stop than the car ahead of him did, and maybe set him up with a few extra liters buffer. Maybe not that many seconds though, thinking about it.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Dieter de Vlaeminck comes in now in the challenge by DB Audi. Makes his way down the pit lane through to his invisible pit crew. It's a real shame that iRacing don't have all that mapped or sort of rendered, but to be honest, can you imagine the frame rate? Oh god, it would be...
I don't think I would have a frame rate.
No, it would just be 1.
If you're lucky, 1.
Yeah.
Even now with the new pit systems with IndyCar and NASCAR as well, it's drawing so much FPS there. If you're doing races at, for example, an oval like Indianapolis or something like that, it'll draw the resources from your PC like instantly.
Yeah, it can do. It's a bit of a nightmare sometimes. I've actually heard as well that the Lamborghini, as we see it here, Scott McFall in the middle of the road, and I've heard this car is actually a bit of a, not just a graphics card killer, but a CPU killer as well. Apparently it's just not been as well optimized, but I've not really had any problems with it, to be fair, in the time I've commentated and broadcasted it. It only really comes when you get like 50 cars, but when you've not got many of them, the Lamborghini doesn't seem to be too bad, to be honest with you.
I haven't really noticed anything about car to car. It could be something in those lines, yeah. I mean, all these cars are built separately by different designers. Not just one guy who's designing all these cars. They have a lot of different people working on content and tracks and etc. So it could be that maybe one designer has gone a different approach to this car than maybe another one did to the R8, which is why it's maybe a little poorly optimized.
Yeah, and we get that with circuits as well. I mean, for a while, Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya was a bit of a nightmare because the pit building was not optimized at all, so you couldn't actually turn the graphics down on it. So it was always rendered in full, like completely in full. Bavo Follen has got past Josh Campfield here. Let's have a look. He's done it out of the final corner. Has Josh had some sort of slowdown or something? He's gone and done it around the outside. Nice. Straightforward move. So that seemed easy enough. Maybe Josh just doesn't have the pace of Bavo.
Apparently I sound quiet, which is the first time I think I've heard that.
Well, I've got you on 100% volume, so I've not changed any of that since the very start, so don't know.
It's Norwegian, calm and collected Nordic Norwegian.
That's exactly it, mate. That's it. Either way, I think we're nearly an hour in already for our 2 hours together. There will be as well. There was a bit of a development in terms of the next part of the broadcast. Everybody, the next 3 hours where I'll be joined by the wonderful Hasse Raymer for 2 of them. I was going to have an hour break at the start of that. I think I'm gonna have to extend that a little bit here. Just got a few things to sort out at my end before the next part. So I will have the cameras on. I will still be around, but I'll have the cameras on auto, and we won't have any commentary for the last half hour of this bit and the first hour of the next bit. So there will be about 90 minutes where we are chill. Markus will be leaving us in about an hour, pretty much, because it's going to be at the 4 hour and 50 minute mark where we bid you farewell, Markus. But we're just about to hit lap 100 now for our race leaders. They're on the 99th lap, and he's about a third of the way around it, actually, to be fair. So not as close as expected to lap 100, but still, it's quite incredible how quickly that has come flying by around Spa, because we know how long a lap is here. 2 minutes 18 was their last time. It was 2:15, 16, 17s at the start. What's the conditions like? 42-degree track temperature. It was about 34 earlier. That's really shot up. I mean, 2 degrees in iRacing makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does that in real life as well. It's incredible how much a track can change even with the degree change, and you know, a lot of people, me included, has gone around and been like, track doesn't change that much with temperature increase, but it does, and I've had that experience myself racing in real life. It doesn't take much, you know, the morning passes you do usually in a real life track, it's slippery, it's cold, it's dusty as well, since none of the track has been used since last night or maybe last evening. So the first few classes get out there, it's really slick, and trying to get heat into the asphalt, trying to get heat into tires, especially in Norway, it's a pain because it's so cold over here. Even in summers, it's not really that hot. So trying to get any rubber laid down at all is really hard. So the first few hours of you know, the fresh practices, usually it'll try and just clean up the track basically, and the seconds will just start dropping after that. It'll change so much from, say, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the track will either get slower or it'll get fast. It's so dynamic, and I think iRacing has really hit the nail on the spot when it comes to how the track changes, because it really does matter. The track temperature from cloud covers, from sun, how the shadows are shining on different parts of the tracks, it changes everything usually.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that, you know, iRacing have got it so right, because you know what sim racers like. We love to moan and complain about stuff, but people often say that, you know, it's too sensitive, or that the tyres are too sensitive. I agree with the latter a little bit, that sometimes the tyres, once they're gone, they are gone. You know, they don't come back. But with the circuit itself, I think a lot of the time they've got it absolutely nailed. You know, you are going to feel that odd difference in the temperature, in the way that the car understeers, the way that even the back end can break away. You know, the oversteer can kick in as well. You know, you can light up the rears a bit too much once you start shredding them. So it's good to know that they have got that done so well, because if I'm honest with you, we wouldn't want it so that they've got all the grip in the world all the time, would we?
No, and it's not realistic either. If you want to do that, you have to go into PlayStation games again, or arcades, because you know, it doesn't do that in real life. It's completely dynamic. Everything changes lap to lap sometimes as well. You know, one thing they haven't really got as right is how slick things could be if somebody actually puts a lot of gravel on track. I mean, the only thing that iRacing is really lacking right now is a proper tire model. The new one is more accurately. Oh, I think we have a huge problem here with Scott McFall, who's crashed, or spun at least, on the exit of what looks to be Lycom.
Yeah, is that Piff Path? I think it's Piff Path, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
right
going. Into Stavelo. Was this Brussels? No.
Oh, that
just snapped there. Yeah, talking about snapping and hot tracks, maybe that's what caught him out.
Yeah, the rear does go around quite slowly there, doesn't it? Certainly didn't look like the most sort of instant of moments. Like, it's just on the power, yeah, just rear just lets go of him.
Yeah, and this is what you can't afford if you want to win this race. You know, you can can have a few of these incidents, but you can't stuff it into the wall or something like that.
Mm.
He lost around 11, 12, 13 seconds on that to Martin Deckens, which is now just 28.4 behind. So he has to try and rebuild that gap that he had previously.
Yeah, it does indeed. And like you were talking about before, it can knock your confidence if you have a moment like that. He might not want to light up the rears anymore, and he might not push it as much on the throttle. That can make a big, big change to someone like that. But to be honest with you, Scott and Olivier, they've been so good throughout the whole season so far. They have looked very untouchable. That's a very small chink in the armour, I think, to be honest with you.
Yeah, as long as they didn't hit anything, it's the best thing. And that's what you got to aim for, to not hit anything. But speaking of the discussion we had earlier here, Chaz, the tire models here, it's the only thing they need to really change and do something with, I feel like. You talked about, when you spin out and you overcook the tires, you don't feel like you can ever get the temperature back down again. I think that's an actual... it's something that happens when they haven't designed and implemented the fact that you tear up the rubber so hard, that energy has to go somewhere. And if they've simulated the tire as well as they have, and they haven't got those extra pieces, the tire will overheat because the energy doesn't have anywhere to go. Usually it does it through smoke and shedding rubber on the track and giving you flat spots. But since it doesn't do that in iRacing, unfortunately, it's probably coming eventually. But since it doesn't do that right now, it'll make the tires a little bit too sensitive to heat and the way that it transfer heats to the rim and onwards.
Yeah, we've seen a number of changes over the last few years in iRacing, and big changes as well. It's not been like little tiny details all of the time. It's been big changes to the sim, how certain things work. I'm very excited for rain, but at the same time, I don't think I've literally just... My graphics card has just sagged a little bit more as I said that. But I don't think that I'm excited to see how everybody else gets on with rain. I'm not particularly going to be driving it, but I'm a bit scared to see some people's approach to how much grip a car has in the wet, because I'm not sure if you've commentated on ACC before, but that they really display how tricky wet weather conditions can be, and very well over on that sim. And if iRacing has any sort of inkling of weather development and track drying out and things like that with their dynamic surfaces, like we've seen on ACC, I think we're in for a real treat, because the way that the circuit develops, a dry line works out there, is great. And to be fair, I've always thought that iRacing's dynamic track surface has been good, so it'd be good to see how that works.
What I can't wait for is the discussion with people saying that the car have too much grip with wet tires.
Oh,
it's definitely going to come. Somebody's going to be like, yeah, no, it's got too much grip now with tires. And I'm hoping as well with the implementation of rain that they have fixed the asphalt tire model as well, because tire pressures have so much to say when you're racing on rain, especially if you have, say for example, you're gambling on a wet end of your stint, or maybe you're gambling on a track drying out when you start the race. You want to try and get as much pressure in those tires as possible. Try and literally just overfill them almost. To try and get the tread down into the asphalt. Try and take away a little bit of the surface area of the tire. And I hope they get that right with tire pressures, because unless they do that, I mean, it's not a proper wet simulation. I will feel like.
Yeah, very true. And I we always say that iRacing sort of take their time with stuff, but at the end of the day, they have to. It's just how it is.
They're renowned for having very perfectly thought out content. So if they get it wrong in the first batch, there's going to be bugs. There's going to be things that are not working as probably promised or thought as in the opening probably few weeks of rain, but that's just the ride we have to go along with, I think. And it's worked very well with dynamic weather, and it's worked very well with dynamic tracks, and especially in dirt racing as well. I don't know how much you've been looking at that, Chaz, but especially in sprint cars or cars that are really, really fast on dirt ovals, the track changes so much, and it's so dynamic, and humidity in the air, everything has something to do with the track state. So if they can get rain nailed on the first go, I will be very impressed. But I'm looking for I think there's going to be a few issues, especially in the first week.
Yeah, I reckon that it'll take time. You know, things like reflections and other aspects of the visual side of it, I think will take some dialing in, I reckon. I don't think it's going to be the easiest thing to get right. I mean, even on other sims that I use that aren't about vehicles on the ground, I do a lot of flight sim stuff. You know, reflections there have been touch and go for a while if you're flying over water on certain sims, so I hope iRacing get it right, and I'm sure they will eventually, but yeah, I agree, it may take time. Nearly 4 hours into this race now, and a third of the way through.
Question of the hour. That's the thing I need to ask you about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, question of the hour.
We've got that out in the first hour, but now, as we're entering the second. Because if you don't have anything, I have one.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of pizza discussions now.
Yeah.
And chocolate discussions. I'll keep it into the food topics. Because one thing that I'm really curious about is how do you like your pasta? You know, is it al dente? Do you like it, you know, really mushy, or it's an important question.
Hard pasta or soft pasta?
Al dente.
Al dente. Okay. So is that wait? Which one's al dente?
That's the one that's a little bit hard, but not like fuck hard, but just enough that you don't feel like you're mushing through like mashed potatoes or anything like that.
I really like soft pasta. I don't like al dente.
I know what Ed's answer to this question would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably going to be yes. He's going to prefer al dente.
Well,
if he's looking right now, he's definitely going to be commenting very soon.
You lot like chocolate in the fridge, so of course you like biting through things that are hard.
Tell me, do you drink American beer?
I don't really drink beer, to be honest.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, to be fair, that was the... So this is the 4th hour, so we're actually a question down. So we need
2 questions.
We need question of the hour episode 2. I'm gonna just Google lifelong debates. just see if we can really see if
get
we
it
can
going here.
Indeed.
I mean, we have a completely open commentator field as well on YouTube. So if you have anything you'd like, just shoot in. Just just do it. Just send it. Send a message.
Yeah. Just let us know. We are continuing to watch the Sim District GT3 by Vibe BMS Esport Lamborghini, and rightly so, because they are once again flying. Martin Deckens is into the pits from 2nd place. Pepijn Mertens, is also in the pits in 10th position. The last car running at the moment is the Tri-Racing Porsche, who haven't we looked at in a while. Christoph Rice is getting back into the Flemish machine, so we'll look forward to seeing how he gets on. Kemal Yagizoglu having a bit of a lonely race now, but not the loneliest of all of them. 17 seconds to the car ahead, 15 seconds to the car behind, but that's the perfect time to get laps in, isn't it, and just churn out the pace.
Speaking of lifelong debates, Chaz,
here we go.
If you want to have a lifelong debate, was the Abu Dhabi finale fixed?
Oh no! Oh, you can't do that. Yes, you can't do that to me. I don't know. I really don't know. And now I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan, and I think that the fallout from it was horrendous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It wasn't what the sport needed. That's all I know. There's so many theories and ideas and opinions on who influenced what and why, and yeah, I don't ever think that anything like that would be fixed as such. But I'm not saying that I think it is, but I wouldn't. I'm not in a strong enough position to say no. If you get what I mean. I'm trying to say no without saying no, but I think I try and remain neutral on it because it's motorsport. It can be so fickle.
I think regardless of what happened in that last lap, I think whoever won the championship was the deserving champion. I mean,
definitely.
Did have the good opening stints to that race. He was defending properly from Verstappen as well, trying to avoid some of his lunges. But Do I think it was fixed? Not at all. I think it was just a matter of human error, which is so common in racing in general. I mean, not only for the drivers, but also for race control, it could happen where it's also been said that in the report. I'm not sure completely how, true that could be, but I mean, they're saying that he was influenced by both team chiefs of Red Bull and Mercedes, so that having a factor in probably, and also a misunderstanding of the regulations, but it wasn't fixed. It's a human error, and also, to be completely honest, I was screaming at the TV because I didn't understand why Hamilton wasn't going into pit when the safety car came out, because I think they were probably recognizing that if this happens to be a full safety car, it's going to end the race. That's what they were gambling on, which were a massive mistake. I've seen something from Mercedes doing that before. It's very Ferrari-like. Ferrari who's now really gone up a few steps since the last few seasons, but to be completely honest, the Abu Dhabi finale wasn't fixed at all. We got a deserving champion regardless. So.
Oh yeah. Well, even as a Lewis fan, I may not be a fan of Max, but they've both had their negative moments. That's the thing. Hamilton fans say that Max is always too aggressive and sends it down the inside, and he is quite sendy, but he's an aggressive racer. But at the same time, Lewis has complained about a lot. They both complain on the radio. It's just that we only hear what's broadcast. To be honest with you, Max deserved it. He took the fight to Hamilton, and it was great. It was a very entertaining season. I just wish that we hadn't all had to sit through the toxicity that we see from each fan base, which, in the world of social media, we've just got to deal with that these days. But
it's one of the things that I miss from before Drive to Survive. That's what we call the new era now in Norway, with the Drive to Survive era, which is basically all the new fans which have discovered the sport throughout that Netflix series. It's really taken a blow to I'd say the sportsmanship among fans as well.
Definitely.
Although while you're sitting on the stands in, say, for example, Austria or the Netherlands, you can sit alongside a Max Verstappen fan with the Hamilton shirt without being worried you're going to be beat up after the race.
Yeah, well, so, exactly. It's what I like. This is no disrespect to any football fans, because I've got a lot of family that are huge football fans. I like watching a game of football. It can be entertaining. It's sport. I love sport. But if you were wearing a Manchester City shirt and you sat in the Manchester United end, someone probably would lamp you. It's just it's just how it is. But motorsport has never had that sort of idea of, because it's not just one team against another. Motorsport, I've never witnessed that sort of thing, but I always feel like Drive to Survive has sort of influenced that. I mean, I watched 2 episodes of the newest series and I turned it off because I'm fed up of all the, much like the drivers were, before all the reports came out about Ricciardo and Norris saying, well, we're not actually got a rivalry, it's just all manufactured. You could tell, like, if you're a good enough, if you followed F1 long enough and you're enough of a fan of it, then you can spot the moments where they've badly dubbed the wrong car sound, or it sounds like someone's flat out down a straight but they're going into a hairpin. You know what I mean? Just stupid things like that. And I don't know. I'm too picky about it, maybe, but I love the sport, and I think that unfortunately, while it's great for pulling in fans, that it brings new fans into the sport. That's great, but it's the way in which it does it. It fabricates it to be more than what it is, and it makes it too much just like a reality TV show. Unfortunately, it was great the first time, but I think even drivers and long-term fans are now a bit fed up of it.
Yeah, I think the first few seasons were the best because they really actually got the actual stories out there about the teams and how they're working, and you got a proper insight. They still had a few good interviews in the new series. I did actually watch the entire thing. A few good interviews. Oh, Jens Gosses there, a huge moment on the exit. But they had a good few interviews, especially with Jos Capito now, the new team chief or team principal of Williams. He's got a huge challenge in front of him, especially now with the new regulations as well, trying to pick up the pieces left off by Miss Williams and what was before that. And so far, I think he's doing an alright job on doing that. Just need to keep their drivers a little bit in check. But yeah, there's a lot of drama, Lando Norris doesn't want to give sympathy for Daniel Ricciardo, and he shouldn't. I mean, it's racing. If you can't get along with the car, that's not the other driver's problem. that's up to you to figure out why are you not as good as the other guy. And that's how Formula 1 has always been. And the way that Netflix lights that issue is that's the next question of the hour. The way that Netflix really puts the light on Formula 1 makes Lando Norris look like he's a very cynical figure, which he's not. And it kind of rinsed the vibe a little bit. And speaking as well of drama that's manufactured in the series, it takes away from what actually happens on track when you have a good battle.
Yeah.
Where cars are wheel to wheel, banging wheels and banging bodywork without crashing or anything like that. It's absolutely fantastic. It makes me stand up in the sofa. That's the kind of drama that I want. Not Gunther Steiner saying, Kevin Magnussen to internationally displeasure, leave the room while breaking the glass door.
That was funny though. I must admit, I found that funny just because of that phrase, just alone.
Yeah.
Like it was an entertaining moment that, that's one of the moments you're sort of grateful to see, because had we have not had Drive to Survive, we wouldn't have seen that. But it's the sort of the caveat of you have to put up with the other rubbish. But I get what you mean. The drama that we all want to see is the racing. That's the whole point of it. We just want to get a bit more behind the scenes with like drivers and teams and so on, but we don't need it fabricating for us that there's drama. Just follow the teams and the drivers and just show us exactly how a weekend goes. Most people will find that interesting if they're just fans of the sport. You don't have to make it more than it is. Anyway, away from that finally, but still good discussion. I appreciate that. It's nice to know that we can be on a level in detail like that, even though it's our first broadcast together. Scott McCrawl down the pit lane right now, and he will get to his box now. Watch, he'll flick the car to the left, ready to pilot through the back of the iRacing pace car Porsche, and he will hand back over to the superstar that is Olivier Boultink. Olivier will jump back in the car and be as rapid as ever, I am sure. Christophe Race is just coming out of Bruchet, to be honest. So that's quite a while away, to say the least. Piling down towards Pouhon. And we'll have to keep our eye on the pit lane timer for Olivier Boultink. 30 seconds at the moment. Everyone else's last stops are about 1 minute 8 to 1 minute 10 seconds. So I think we might see Sim District stay there for a while if they don't take tyres. And it looks like they are not going to... No, they are going to take tyres.
You think Scott would be fond of your deep-fried mushrooms?
Probably not. Actually, no, I don't know. He might
be.
Actually,
if he's looking at the broadcast right now, I think he should come in here and we could get an answer on that question. Can you mushroom or can you deep fry mushrooms?
Can you mushroom a deep fry? I like that. You can deep fry mushrooms, as far as I know. I think.
But is it good?
I think my missus did it a while ago, actually.
Is that when she was in the oven, or was that a different time?
No, that was... no, she was not in the oven with anything, to be fair. But, no, I think... I can't remember if it was just deep-fried mushrooms or not. I think she's done it before. I'll have to ask her. But, yeah, I think she enjoyed it. Olivier Boultink is back out on track now for Sim District GT3 by Vibe BMS Esports. Christophe Rice is 25 seconds back. Jeremy DeBover is a minute back. Almost looked like he was going around the same corner. Now, here's a question for you. So we've got the number 4 McChallenge by DB car, the newer livery, which has been racing in the virtual Bell car series as well, the bright yellow machine. We also have the number 10 car, which is the gorgeous black car with the yellow and red, of course part of the Belgian tricolour up the side. Which one do you think looks better?
I think all of these liveries here tonight really looks good, but I've already told which car I have as my favorite, and it's the 626 car of Lucas Romano.
Yeah,
which probably doesn't answer your question very well, but I do like the 86, which we are looking at right now. It's a good color scheme, flat reds that really reflects with the light. I mean, and the gold details as well. So I think this is my favorite livery of the ones you were asking me.
Yeah, it's a good-looking car, the Flemish car. Very, very pretty. They always have been pretty in all of the series that we've commentated on and broadcast here on Simracersworld TV. and we hope to continue to see them on our screens wherever they may be. A number of the, without the shameless plug, a number of the Simracers World series have moved over to my own YouTube channel for broadcasting as Nevo, which is the sort of rebranded community which has been taken by Bart Daleman. He's really taken it under his wing with some great guys helping him out running the series as well. So if you do want to carry on watching with the series that you knew and love as Simracers World, you can know and love them as Nevo over on my YouTube channel as well. Not sure where the future of this championship will lie, but I'm sure that we will have words with Jochen and the Dynamics guys about where this will be broadcast in the future, because it's been great fun working with Dynamics over the last few years, and they've always provided good racing as well. And this is one of the very series, I must admit, that proves that you don't have to have a massive grid of GT3 cars to have a good bit of fun with them.
Just a good amount of time. That's all you need. 13 drivers took the race start here tonight. 10 is still left, so that's statistically pretty good. Only 3 drivers have retired from the race tonight. Tonight, actually, I'm so used to having these races commentated like late in the evenings, and this is actually the first time I think I can recall having a broadcast as early as the hour we're on right now.
Well, I mean, I'm commentating from 7 a.m. BST tomorrow morning. I'm actually covering the last few hours of the Williams eSports effort in the Nürburgring 24-hour, which is also going on. We look at Jeremy.
That means you're going to miss the Formula 1 race then.
It does, unfortunately. It is, but if I'm honest with you, for a while now, other than the first round of the championship, I think I've pretty much just watched the highlights for a lot of them, because I'm always away and I'm always doing something when the races are on.
Yeah, that's a big problem with working in motorsport, is that you you have to work in motorsport, and usually it overlaps other events which you probably want to see. I've been lucky enough now to not have any events intervene with what I'm doing now, but yeah, I'm sure it's going to happen sometime.
Yeah, it will do indeed, mate. That's the thing, it's so easy to let weekends overlap, and one of the difficult things about commentary is that you can't be everywhere at once. It requires you to be there paying attention to what's going on, and having even being able to have multiple series as well to your name. It's difficult in itself, because they all have their own different calendars. They clash in different ways, but that's just part of the job, I guess. Now, this will be quite a happy moment for the Sim District team, because that car in front of them is Dynamics Racing Pink, which is second in the championship at the moment, currently running 6th in the race. But that is, other than Decimo BE, the only car really that can challenge them, and right now they're just about to put a lap on them as they sit in 6th position. So that will be a very rewarding moment, I'm sure, as through they go down the inside. Olivier Bultink continues this impressive run of form this season. They really have been the team to beat. Wondering whether that will change going forward.
I think you would appreciate having that button map now with the international sign of the displeasure passing him. Maybe a short little wave there going by down the Camel Straight.
Yeah, just you could get it so it hangs the arm out the window.
Out the ventilation. I don't think that will be very good if you end up rolling the car.
No, that's true. That's true.
It's a simulator. It's not going to hurt anyways.
Very true. Well, unless you've
got. Did you hear that when he came into the captain's corner? It was a huge lift there. I think he actually pulled the clutch a little bit.
Yeah, it's what Olivier is usually the one that does a hell of a lot of fuel saving into there. He did it earlier. I think he gave it a blip of clutch into Pouon, but with how much that can unsettle the car, you've got to be very brave to do it there. But yeah, into that chicane is one of their favourite places to do it. I'm not sure if he does it too much into the bus stop. We'll go on the nose camera so you'll hear the revs, but also get to hear the beautiful 5.2 litre V10 screaming its bag off all the way up through Blanchimont.
This corner looks pretty easy when you're riding on board, but it's so notoriously difficult when you come through it. Oh, listen, yeah.
A little lift.
Huge. No, that's not a little. That's a huge one, because he's actually pulling the clutch as well. That's no track or no load on the wheels there at all when he's slowing the car down.
Yeah,
so it's like listening to Tesla.
It is. I used to get confused, actually, because I did think, if it's based on throttle position, then why the hell are people still dipping the clutch anyway? That doesn't change anything other than mean that the car might get unsettled, but it's less friction, isn't it? It's less engine braking, so the car will maintain some good pace while dropping the revs and obviously using less fuel. So I soon corrected myself when I actually thought about it, but it is
I'm
what
not
it
really
is.
sure how much difference it's going to really play out. I mean, I remember the one GT3 Mercedes one make race you commentated, the Norwegian one, or the Scandinavian one. I'm not sure if you can recall that. At this very track, actually, when they came up through Camel and they pulled the clutch, and I mean, obviously they got fuel numbers out of it because they were able to finish the race as well. A huge backlash with the promoters as well after that, because nobody was happy about how the rules were after that went. But I'm just curious, you know, if why would you need? Ooh, huge moment again there for the Boover, just taking a little look at that. But I'm just curious, why would you need to pull the clutch? I mean, in some of these cars, you don't even have the ability to pull a clutch, like the Audi R8, which has a automatically operated clutch within the car. It just seems weird to me that, you know, if you want to get that extra mileage, as you're saying, you know, if it goes by the throttle position, you'll have to brake regardless, anyways, at least somewhere. And you know, it's better to brake later than earlier, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I think it depends on how well you know the car, I guess. I mean, some people have got such, like, they're so in tune with what the individual cars can do. Because let's not forget, you know, on iRacing, you can drive many different cars and you can do different series in different cars. I know guys that race in TCR series on a Tuesday, and then they'll have Porsches on a Wednesday in the Porsche Cup cars, and then they'll drive GT3s on a Thursday, Formula 3 cars, sorry, on a Thursday. You know, it's incredibly different cars with their own characteristics, their own way of working, different race formats, all sorts, you know, and to switch your mind from one to the other in just a series procedural sense is a massive thing to do. But when it comes to actually driving the cars and physically having the muscle memory, let alone remembering the circuits in each car as well, it does show you how versatile sim racers can be. But some people just focus on one type of car, don't they? One class of car, and it really does show through sometimes.
Yeah, I think you can only become the best driver if you've gone through some of the cars, or at least tested out a few different drivetrains, like the rallycross car, and then going into the DCRs and some of the rear-wheel drive cars. Looking at Camel right now, getting a few meters back on P1, trying to stick in his draft a little bit. Looking good on pace as well, I'd say. To 18.6, 3/10 faster on the last lap. But yeah, if you just stick to one car, you won't get any, what should I say, knowledge from any of the other classes, because there's always something to pick and transfer from one car to another, especially TCR cars. The way you have to drive them, you have to use the rear tires a lot to rotate the car, since it has all that friction in the front end with the differential and not really having a powertrain in the back. And taking that knowledge, for example, into the old 991 GT3 Cup car, which relied completely on the same technique almost, maybe a little bit more locking because of, you know, having the engine, the transmission connected to real wheels, and taking bits and pieces from every single car and transferring them to maybe one car that you want to really go ahead and have some commitment to. It's only going to help you as a sim racer, and using that little extra time to be more versatile in what kind of cars you're driving and testing, you know, it's going to help you as a race driver. Even different kind of tracks as well, like if you do oval racing as well, there's always something to take out of that, especially short track racing like at Richmond or Martinsville. You know, you have to learn how to trail brake properly to get the full momentum out of the car, and you also take bits and pieces from, if you've done a lot of asphalt racing, into the NASCAR races, and there's always something to get knowledge from in racing. It's not like football or basketball, where, you know, if you play basketball, you can only be good at basketball. In racing, if you're good at circuit racing, you can be good at rallycross as well. If you're good at rallycross, you could definitely be good in circuit racing as well. So it's so volatile, and you know, try and drive as much as you can, especially in iRacing, where you have the opportunity to use all the cars and content in the simulator.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you know, one thing that's been interesting to see, especially in the last few years, has been the way that these sim races can go to real world racing, and they can translate those skills into the real cars. You know, it's been amazing to watch, and that versatility can come with it as well. That's one thing I find really impressive, is that they can continue to still have that development, the way that they can work with one car then another in different ways in the real world as well as the sim. It's amazing to watch, really, really amazing. Just trying to keep my eye on something here in terms of the timing, because we did have the battle box up before, but there's no cars now within 5 seconds of each other, and I had it set to that. One thing I did want to look at is actually the stint lengths. So these are the stints so far. Look at how the lead Lamborghini is spreading further and further away. And Debova, by the way, doing 22 laps after that incident before. I think you were right. They did have an incident, but for some reason it just didn't get picked up on SDK. I think the car didn't come to enough of a stop or leave the circuit for long enough. But they definitely had something wrong there, because they had a 22 lap stint, that third stint that they did. But they're still up in 6th position, so going very well indeed. But from that first stint, you can just see that more and more time passes and more of a gap grows from Olivier Bultink to the guys behind.
One thing that's interesting to have a look at right now as well is trying to look at the pace difference between Rice and Bultnik as well, and they're very evenly paced. The gap that Scott McFall had when he had the spin was around 48 seconds, I recall, or if I recall correctly, not stating anything now. That's dangerous as a commentator for you viewers if you didn't know that. But yeah, I think around 50 seconds almost for the 45 car, and that difference has gone down now to 24.8 and changing, and it's very fluctuating a lot. If he can start getting a few tenths on him now every single lap, and that's Bultnik on race, that gap is going to start building up again. But that all depends on how much pressure maybe he's feeling from the car and right behind him now, because even though he's a lap ahead of the car in the 6th spot now, there's still an actual championship battle between these two. So it could be that Joshua, that, if I can get the right car now, Kemlil, oh, that's a hard last name.
Yagisoglu. If
he can really pull off here and put some pressure on Bultnik, then the race can switch pretty fast.
Yeah, definitely, and that's one of the best things about motorsport sometimes, is the fact that it can develop very, very quickly. Positions can go one way then the other without much provocation, to be honest with you. We'll see certain drivers that can just switch on the pace, and other drivers that will stay at the same pace throughout an entire event, and the ones that can suddenly switch it on and surprise you are really, really entertaining to watch, I think, because they can put in a golden lap, but the inconsistency is what keeps it unpredictable.
Yeah. And that's my favorite part about motorsport, is that you never know. Literally, you never know. I mean, it was like that in Formula 1 for a long time, but I'm tuning on the TV every Sunday. I'm not entirely sure who's going to come out on top, and I think that's a huge relief now in today's motorsport world, especially because with how Formula 1 was usually, I wanted to look at other championships as well, try and get some more knowledge about other championships and look at other types of races, first devolving into GP2, now Formula 2, and then going down into the motorsport rabbit hole, which is so deep.
Oh,
because you have so many continents which are having racing clubs and nations, and watching GT racing by itself, and WEC and LMP1s and LMP2s and all of that stuff, you never know who's going to win, because one moment you'll have one car who's really, really good in the opening lap, and then in the night phase maybe they crash out or get hit, or something breaks on the car and changes the race completely. And that's where the comebacks come back in, which we were talking about, Chaz, where you'll have a top team maybe falling 5 places in the night, and then trying to find those 5 places again in the race. There's nothing better than endurance racing, I don't think. Not even Formula 1. I'm sorry.
No, you're right, mate. That's the thing. I mean, you know, endurance racing has so many different ways of surprising you. You know, I mean, look at, again, you mentioned it before very correctly as well, the 2016 Le Mans 24-hour, the very end of the race. You know, all it took was that last lap. And, I mean, who knows? If there would have been a slight delay in the race or something else happened earlier along the line where the Toyota didn't have to do one more lap, you know, they might have won the race.
Yeah, and maybe a safety car came out on the right spot, and they would have had that extra lap in the car. But it didn't happen because, you know, it just didn't, and that's just the nature of endurance racing. I love the saying around Indianapolis as well, and especially Circuit de la Sarthe. It's the track chooses its winner. It's never the drivers who really wins the race. It's the track that chooses who's going to be the winner, and it's usually, most times, completely unpredictable.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm saying most times because I did a huge prediction on the Daytona 24 hours this year, the real one, and I think I actually managed to get every single car that I was predicting to be a winner on second place, except for the car class in LP3. Quite proud of that one, actually.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it, where you sometimes feel that a race has, I don't know, it's like the race has got it out for you, if that makes sense. Like, some of these drivers, I'm sure, will feel that way. I mean, Paul Rieger, bless him, and the Porsche Sport guys, they will, they'll be gutted that their race ended as early as it did because they were going to park the car anyway. You know, I think that the incidents they had were, you know, there was no other elements to it other than they were just pushing as hard as they could. The car was, unfortunately, just out of shape, really. It happens in the Porsche, doesn't it? The engine's about 30 feet behind you, as I would say in the 911, but that's just how it be. We look at Navarro de Bova right now. He's got Pepin Mertens just 8.4 seconds clear ahead of him. And the gap has slowly come down. He was 7/10 quicker last time round, was Navarro, but the car is a lot further down than we expected it to be, really. They've not had the smoothest of seasons in the Challenge machines. I think this car is actually down in 20th place in the championship with 12 points. So they've not had the most straightforward of times. I think they've had their best result was actually in 11th place. So in terms of relative position, based on the smaller field that we've got here, they are the last car running at the moment. They obviously are outrunning the guys that have retired, but I think they'd prefer to be a bit higher up, considering that there's not as many cars out there.
I mean, we had a spin for the number one car, so, you know, things could happen and he can start picking up more positions and more points automatically and serve themselves to a good end to the championship regardless. So it's just about trying to keep that car rolling for every single lap and avoid, you know, spins and hitting something and getting hit. And if you do that, you know, you're off to a great stop, really, or a great end to the race.
Yeah, I think the phrase "in it to win it" is very important in endurance racing. I mean, I said before, didn't I, about the 5-lap difference between us and the car that we were chasing in one race. And, you know, that came very quickly, absolutely full circle on us again. You know, it suddenly disappeared, and that was that. And we really enjoyed ourselves. It is, unfortunately, time to say goodbye, I'm afraid, Markus. We've had a very philosophical and in-depth time together. It's been great fun, I have to say, mate. Any final thoughts from you before we let you go?
I'm just gonna have to do our traditions just as a commentator this time, Chaz, and give a huge shout out to Ian. I hope he's listening right now. If not, you know, just give him the time code, because I've really enjoyed my time here at SRW TV, and I've had some good broadcasts here with Hasse Römer as well. And it's been a huge learning experience to get in here and commentate in not my native language and get some more experience with commentating in you know, a different language and building up some experience with different peoples and organizations. So it's a huge huge opportunity for me from Chaz, or from Ian, I'm sorry. From you as well, Chaz, giving me the opportunity to sign off SRW tonight. But yeah, it's I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to stay here with a bunch of great guys, and I'm happy to say that I can sign off properly on a high note here with the 12-hour race instead of the cancelled NASCAR race that me and Hassel was going to do earlier this this winter.
Well, it's been great to have you, Markus, and like you say, I mean, the fact that you come here and commentate in not United, it's not your first language. It's phenomenal. It really is, and it sort of inspires me to learn more languages. But I need to learn French for this year, and I just haven't bothered. But yeah, it's
also
that.
I don't know how to say it.
Well, either way, though, mate, it's been a pleasure to finally share the commentary box with you. It's a shame it's our last one on Simracersworld TV, but enjoy the rest of your afternoon and your evening, and we'll see you soon. Very, very soon, I'm sure. Thank you for your work. It's been great.
You have my number, Chaz. Where to find me. So
Do indeed.
if there's anything you need, just let me know. And that goes for some of you older guys here as well. If you need a commentator suddenly, just PM me. I'm still in the Simracersworld TV Discord group and pretty flexible with things, and I'll try and respond as quickly as possible. But yeah, it's been a good one. I'm glad to sign off now with you, Chaz, and the SRW team, and also happy to conclude my last broadcast here with this race.
Nice one, Markus.
Last time on SRW.
Nicely said, mate. Love the kind words, and hopefully we'll speak again soon, mate.
Have a good one, Chaz, and everyone viewing this, just stick with the broadcast. This race is going to end up being a good one. I can totally assure you that.
Thank you very much, mate. Everybody, Markus Gjesdal, absolute star. Great to finally commentate with him, as mentioned, after a long, long time of both being in the same Discord and working for the same channel. We never actually crossed paths to actually work together, but fantastic stuff. Great in-depth chats as well. Love having a good talk about a bit of Drive to Survive and just the motorsport world, the elements of different aspects of endurance racing. And Markus obviously bringing a lot of great experience and real-world experience to the sim as well, and of course to us here on the channel, to let us know how it be in the real world compared to the sim. We've been watching Olivier Bultink for a few laps now. He's the number 45 Sim District GT3 by Vibe BMS Esport Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, easy for me to say, leading the race by 22 seconds from Christoph Reis in the Flemish Sim Sports Lamborghini. Lambo 1-2 at the moment with Jeremy de Bova in third place, but he's some 1 minute and 12 seconds back from second place. But they have had a great race so far. Still my team of the race. 6 places gained. Bavo Follon is in fourth position at the moment in the Decimo BE Porsche. And Joshua Campfield, a new name to us here in this championship, is in fifth for Sim District GT3 by BMS Esport. That is the NL car, as it's known. And the American putting in some strong times so far. He's a little bit slower than Bavo Follon on that previous lap, but it's only a 10th, so in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to change too much. Kemal Yagazoglu is the car chasing down Olivier Bultink, or staying with him at the moment. Second in the championship, to the car ahead. 6th in the race. Started 7th. Jens Goosens is the next car behind them in the Zenem Esports 1 Lamborghini. Apologies for if there's any connection issues, by the way. SDK is running a little bit slowly at the moment with the Nürburgring 24 going on. Peter Lemkens is 8th for RP Motorsport Verde. They started 5th on the grid as well and have lost a number of positions due to an earlier incident. Pepijn Mertens is in 9th place for Tri Racing. And Navarro de Bova is currently the last car running. We're down to 10 cars here with still a long, long way to go in this race. Now, just to give you a full disclosure breakdown of what's going on then, I will, as mentioned, be extending my break from the broadcaster in about 45 minutes time. I will go for a quick break at 4 p.m. UK time. 4:30 p.m. UK time. I'll be gone for then half an hour while the cameras remain on for this second part of the stream. After that, I will then change it over to part 3. There will be an hour's commentary break there. while the field continues to sort themselves out. The cameras will switch automatically and will look at whatever's going on circuit and will, of course, keep you informed of battles and so on. And also, I will be joined by the wonderful Hasse Raymer for 2 hours of part 3. We'll be together going through from 7 p.m. CEST to 9 p.m. CEST. And then at that point we will switch over to the final part of the broadcast. The last 3 hours, me and Ed May will be together until the very end. And there we will speak to drivers and personnel and all sorts after the race concludes. And that, of course, will then be the end of the championship as well. So it's really coming to a close here. Let's not forget, this is not just a one-off event. This is part of a championship. Multiple rounds, points on offer. There's more than just bragging rights riding on this one. And this is Bavo Follen in the Decimo BE car. As I mentioned before, coming into this, they were third in the championship. And if I update the little spreadsheet that I made earlier on and give you the points standings, just bear with me while I type them out, the championship will pretty much stay the same for the top 5. It's very close though. Dynamics Racing Pink would have 95 points to the 93 of Decimo BE. And then they will only be 3 points ahead of Flemish Sim Sports as well. 95, 93 and 90 would be their points, but 140 points for the Sim District GT3 car at the top. So they've certainly got a big old gap at the very top end. Now Kemeny Agizoglu is 8 seconds off Joshua Campfield, and I'm wondering whether the Lamborghini in front of them, which is our race leader, is actually helping them catch up right now, because they've got the ultimate pace out there at the moment. And these guys in the Dynamics Pink machine can just sit behind and use the slipstream, can't they? Joshua Campfield is certainly pushing hard though. He's just had an off track. Now, SDK is clearly picking up the old school off tracks, because according to this, that one we saw right there from Olivier Bulting, because they're 299th off track so far this race. No other team is in the 200s yet. Christoph Race is on 157 apparently. That's clearly not wrong. Well, it clearly is wrong, sorry. But thank you everybody that has stuck with us so far. I hope you've been enjoying yourselves on this Saturday afternoon. The sun is shining outside. The sun is shining at Spa in the virtual world. And in terms of the track temperature, it's still 41 degrees. It's pretty crazy. It's very hot indeed. You can see how well rubbered in the certain lines are around the circuit here. Up through Arouge and Blanchimont. And you can see the slipstream keeping them together here. Look, closing in on the Lambo. Are we going to fuel save? Yagizoglu does lift quite early, but I'm not sure it's prime fuel saving because he doesn't dump the clutch or anything. Just looking at the lap times to see who did the best lap last time round, and it was actually Christoph Race. And I'm sorry if it's Christoph Raas, by the way. I'm probably getting it wrong, but Christoph is at least 9/10 of a second quicker than the race leader at the moment. The gap has come down to 19.7 seconds. Now I'm wondering whether he might actually have the pace completely outright over the guys that he's chasing, and whether he could potentially go for the race lead here. It would be great to, you know, no disrespect to the guys, but it would be great to see a team give them a proper, solid challenge on pure pace alone. Bavo Fallon comes into the pits. And Joshua Campfield does the same. Now, this was the battle that we were keeping our eyes on earlier. Kemil Yagizoglu comes out of the final corner, and he will go past on the road for now. And you can hear even Olivier Bultink in front of him now, dipping the clutch, dropping the revs, saving the fuel. And that can make all the difference right to the end of the race. And you can hear it again, listen. Again, just dipping the clutch. And this is what's made the difference on these stints. If we look at... Well, let's look at the top four, actually, because it will show you the Dynamics pink car at the bottom. Obviously, the stints are getting smaller and smaller, so the visual difference between how far they stretch across the screen will be greatly reduced. But you can see just that third stint especially... Oh, well, I'll say the second stint, actually, for Bultink and co. has made a massive difference. That 28-lap stint was a real game changer for them. They've only done 14 laps, whereas Yagizoglu has done 21 on this current run. They've done 24, then realised they can get 25 out of it. But it's still part of the interesting side of endurance racing, that you get all these different fuel strategies. You get drivers and cars that can run to different lengths as a stint goes on. Just do enjoy listening to these 5.2 litre V10s though. We can see Joshua Campfield making his way around. The gap to Bavo Fallon is 24 seconds at the moment. So he's got a bit of work to do, to say the least, to catch back up. If we show you their positions on the track map, that is the difference between them. You can see Bavo Fallon just coming down towards La Source now, turn 1. Joshua Campfield just going through Blanchimont as we speak. Lovely stuff. But the gaps, they're extending a lot here, to be honest. You know, if we show you the whole field, there are a couple of cars that are stuck together. 7th place and 3rd place, which is Jens Goosens, is just ahead of Jeremy de Bover in the McChallenge by DB Kai. See him there. And then a bit further around, 5th place, which is Bavo Fallon, is just ahead of 9th placed Pepijn Mertens. I do like this tri-racing car though. It's a very, very good looking bit of kit. And no disrespect to them, but one thing I always used to say in motorsport is that the best looking cars are usually the ones that aren't always getting the airtime at the front of the field. And I think that the tri-racing car deserves the airtime because it's a very good looking machine. Into the pit lane then comes Jeremy de Bover. He brings in the beautiful yellow Audi. And past him on the road there goes, I think, no, it was not Bavo Fallon, was it? It was Peter Lemkens in one of the other Audis, the RP Motorsport machine. Again, a car that is trying to recover as this race goes on. After a big old hit into the wall earlier, Dynamics Pink move up into 3rd place with McChallenge by DB sat in the pits. And you can hear fuel saving there from Peter Lemkens. He dips the clutch and makes sure there's as much fuel saving as possible going on there. But that's the thing, that's what helps you out. Let's see if he does it again towards Pouon or the following chicane. No, it doesn't sound like it through there, does it? We saw the lead Lamborghini doing that earlier on. Let's have a look at what the pit stop strategies are for the cars around Peter Lemkens, either side of them. You can see there, they're a little bit later pitting than the guys that they're racing at the moment. Now that things have stabilised a bit, they are doing 25 or 26 lap stints. They did 26 laps last time round. But it's great to see this. It's really, really good to see that graphic working. And it really does give you an idea as to where this race could level out further down the line. Another car that I want to have a look at, to be fair, is this one here. Let's see how they are at the moment. You can see that people are really out of sync there. Jens Goossens in the Zenem Esports car, having to pit very early due to the damage suffered in the big crash at Blanchimont. And that's the thing, it can make such a big difference to your race early on when you just have one incident like that. I mean, while you can argue the point that you've got more time to make up for any mistakes, you've still got a hell of a long time to try and catch up. You don't want to put yourself on the back foot. Hope you're all enjoying the coverage this afternoon. It's certainly been a lot of fun speaking with Ed May and then Markus Gjesdal. Markus having to shoot off early for other commitments elsewhere, unfortunately, but nothing wrong with that at all. And he's done a mega job for Simracersworld TV. Good to see Joshua Campfield going well, though. His last lap, there was a 2 minutes 20.0. The cars around him were much quicker, actually. Bavo following a 2:18.9, 2:18.0 by Olivier Bultink. Christoph Raas just comes out of the pit lane. And that is another pit stop completed for him. Let's compare them to the race leaders. You can see they're just a couple of laps behind, but they've just been matching them at the moment. Have the race leaders. They've been pushing a little bit harder. Now that is interesting though. Christoph Raas was stationary for 35 seconds. Was that some sort of penalty? Because as you see there, 21 laps on that last stint. That's not when they would usually pit. So I think maybe they might have had some sort of penalty there, because it was a 35-second stop. And, I mean, fuel alone has been around 40 seconds, 42, 43 seconds for these cars. That could be a bit of a turning point in the lead battle for this race. I mean, what there is of a lead battle, because now Olivier Bultink and Sim District GT3 are a minute ahead, but they've still got, if you can hear me over it, they've still got that Porsche chasing them down. And word just in as well in the YouTube chat. Thank you, Thomas Layton, for relaying the information that Flemish actually had an incident at Blanchimont. So they had to come in and get the car repaired, which is a massive shame. But at the end of the day, you have to keep pushing. Oh, and Martin Deckens put it in chat as well. Sorry, Martin, I didn't see that there. Apologies, mate. I did not see that, my friend. But big moments, they're the ones that change the race. And it can happen to the very best. That is for sure. Nearly 5 hours of the way through this race right now. It's been great, great fun so far. Once we get to about 5 hours and 20 minutes of the race, that's when I will be having my break. Oh, wow. Sounds and looks great, doesn't it, when they come pouring through Blanchimont. The Audi certainly looks good, doesn't it? A bit out of date now. On iRacing is the R8 LMS. It still doesn't look like an out-of-date car, does it? It still looks to be a modern GT car. It's not that different from the current iteration, which has been racing in GT World Challenge. Interesting development for the Audi is that the rear wing supports, as you see them here, we'll see it as the car goes side onto us here. They start in front of the rear wing and then hook over it. The swan neck rear wing supports, as we call them. But on the current car, the newest iteration, they go behind and then over the top of the rear wing, much like their GT2 car did for the last couple of years. Yes, there is a GT2 version. If you haven't seen it, you need to go and have a look at it. I was lucky enough to commentate on a round or 2 rounds of the Fanatec GT2 European Series with the one and only David Addison, where Hans-Joachim Stuck was racing at Hockenheim in a KTM Crossbow GT2. It was fantastic to be able to commentate on that series. I was very grateful to David and Hay Fisher and the guys that gave me the chance to do it. It was part of the race weekend where I commentated on the best race I think I've ever seen, which was the Clio Cup Europe race at Hockenheim. David and I lost our minds over that one. It was brilliant fun. But the Audi R8, certainly a stalwart car of GT racing these days. I remember when Audi first announced that they were doing the R8 and the concept car for it, the supercar that it was going to be. It was a lot more round back then, but now it's got a lot more square and angular and Lamborghini-like, you could say. Funny that, isn't it? It certainly looks the part. Very, very good race cars as well. They've had much success all over the world in different series and special events and all sorts. I'm going to change our timing on the left-hand side for you, everybody, just so you can see the intervals. So that is the gap between each car. That's how far apart they are from one another. We realise that a number of guys will go laps down on each other very, very shortly. Well, or they will continue to do so at least. You can hear cars dumping the clutch, the 5.2 litre V10s all around the circuit, dropping their revs as they all fuel save. A bit more cloud cover at this point of the race as well, which is interesting to see. Maybe the temperature's changing somewhat. We'll have a quick look at it and just see. 40 degrees Celsius now, so it's not as hot as it once was, but I guess that single degree of change isn't going to make too much of a difference to the drivers at this point. We continue to watch Jeremy De Bover in this very impressive drive through the field from McChallenge by DB. Still not even at the halfway point yet, though, and it must be very, very daunting for drivers to get this far through a race and know that we're not even halfway, because most of the races in this championship, if this is the first one that you've been watching with us, most of the races are 6 hours long. All of the races we've had this season have been 6 hours, but then this becomes the finale, the special event, the 12 hours of Spa at the end of it all. Unfortunately, we have lost a number of cars, but we continue with the 10 that we have running. It's interesting to see that we have the 10 of them rather than like a 60 car grid, because like I was mentioning earlier, they can just pound around and put the laps in and get the most out of their cars time and time again. Olivier Bultink, though, just continues to pound around and put the solid laps in. See how many laps they are away from pitting. Well, they had 21. They are on their 21st lap of this current stint. So we've got another few left to go out of them before we'll see them in again. Again, listen to the fuel saving. Listen to the fuel saving. It's almost never ending from the Sim District GT3 by Vibe BMS Esport car. That's almost become muscle memory now, saying that name. I've said it a lot this season. That's safe to say. Here's Jens Goossens in the Lamborghini Huracan. We look back, listening to the pops and bangs with the number 4 car of Jeremy De Bover behind us. I'm pretty sure, that Jens Goossens will let him go. God, it's a good noise, isn't it? See iRacing's shadows doing their thing from here as well. Well, at the minute, looks like he's actually got quite good pace, doesn't it, Jens Goossens? Certainly Jeremy De Bover isn't reeling him in at a rate of knots. He's just sort of following him, really. Maybe using it for a bit of fuel saving. It doesn't sound like he's dropping the revs or anything. But still, two very good sounding and good looking cars circulating together. Closest two cars on track right now are Joshua Campfield and Kemal Yagizoglu. Joshua is 5.7 seconds off. And he's lapping slower at the moment. He was 7/10 slower last time round. His last lap for Joshua Campfield was a 2:19.1 and Kemil Yagizoglu did a 2:18.8. So still 3/10 quicker on that previous circulation. Fastest lap of the race is still a 2:15.67 by Olivier Bultink, but the track was a lot cooler nearer the start of the race. Everybody at the moment, I should say, is in the 2:18s, 2:19s. So a good few seconds off per lap compared to the ultimate pace that we saw in the race. Everybody's bests really are 2:16s, 2:17s. Obviously, aside from the 2:15 that Olivier Bultink did. Apologies for any sort of silence here. I'm just trying to sort of comb my way through the timings and things and try and pick up on any potential narratives of what is going on. There's not too much in the way of movement right now. We've got 4.7 seconds, though, between these two cars. This is the battle for 9th place. The last two cars that are running at the moment, Tri Racing, only about 4.7 seconds clear of Kurt Van Onacker in the number 10. McChallenge by DB car. Car 10, P10 at the moment. Looking to get off the bottom of the timing sheets currently. Unfortunately, Thomas, I appreciate the offer, mate. I appreciate the offer, but due to contractual things, there would be a lot to sort out for that, I'm afraid. Due to Simracersworld being an official business and so on until the end of play this year. But thank you very much, though. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. It won't be long before I go for a quick break anyway, to be fair, guys. So maybe about 15 minutes and then I'll be off air for about 90 minutes. I will obviously still manage the switch over from part 3 to part 4. Oh, sorry, part 2 to part 3. And then I'll be joined by the wonderful Hasse Raymer, and you will have both of us together for about 2 hours. And I can tell you for free, the puns and all sorts will be pouring out of us then. We will have a hell of a lot of fun together, Will, Hasse and I. We always have done, we always will. We've commentated together multiple times on the Virtual Bell Car series, another endurance series using GT machinery, Radicals, Porsche Cup cars, TCRs. Fantastic championship. I believe Hasse still commentates on it now as well. Ed May involved in that one, I think. Ed was certainly reeling off a number of results and things earlier, like he certainly knew it inside out. Back down the hill goes Kurt. The gap has actually gone up to 5.4 seconds now. And it continues to grow as well. 5.4 seconds has now become 5.6 seconds. So unfortunately, Kurt Van Onacker not quite reeling in the car ahead. There's certainly a growing gap there between the two of them. .7 seconds is the gap from Jeremy Debova back to Bavo Follen. There is the Porsche. And Decimo BE trying to hold on to 3rd place in the championship. They need to gain another position. They will actually still finish ahead of Flemish Sim Sports by 3 points if the race stays as it is. As that didn't look too friendly down there by Bavo Follen. The circuit is definitely very, very hot. Now, I know that some pit stops may need to sort themselves out, but there will be still no change in the championship with a couple of positions moving around. A lot of them are very, very even on points, so they're not going to lose too much or gain too much if the race continues as is. Jeremy de Bova into the pits now in the number 4 Audi. This is going to be their 6th pit stop of the race, and interestingly enough, Olivier Bultink has not even completed their 5th pit stop of the race, so it looks like they may have got a extra stop over everybody else. Let's have a look at the stint length, although to be fair, I think didn't de Bova have an issue earlier on? And to be fair, Bultink will be due in literally this lap, so we will see them. And it's intriguing that it's come so suddenly for these guys, because they've only done... Gjesdal has just clicked past, that's why. Should be a 5th one. Yep, there's de Bova. No, Campfield goes past as well now, so we've lost him off the bottom of that graphic. But it seems like a bit of an early stop compared to their last one. And on to fresh rubber goes Dieder de Vlaeminck. I'm intrigued by that one. I am intrigued by that. Maybe it puts them out of sync, I'm not sure. Out of sync in a good way, so that they'll have less of a splash and dash to think about at the end. There's only one way to find out though, everybody, isn't there? Only one way to find out. You'll have to stick around here on Simracersworld TV until the very end. Just to reiterate, this is of course the final ever broadcasted event here on Simracersworld TV. It's been a real emotional roller coaster. And it's been wonderful to have you all with us throughout our time here on the channel since it started in, I believe, early 2020, the very start of 2020. With me, Chaz Draycott, doing the first broadcast. I think it was the Simracersworld TCR series that we first did. And it's been a hell of a lot of fun since then. We've grown into bigger numbers. Fantastic subscribers as well, who are always about and always enjoying the chat. Getting involved and interactive with our broadcasts, that's for sure. And I sincerely hope you're all having a good Saturday afternoon, keeping me company so far. But as mentioned, I'll only be in the box for another few, sort of 10-15 minutes or so before just going off for a quick break for a bit and then coming back to see how things have changed. I will still be sort of maintaining things, but it's just time to get a bit of food. Maybe stretch my legs a little bit as well. I can actually walk around the office a little bit with my headset on such a long cable that it's on, but it's not a very big office and it's not far to stretch your legs, is it, to be honest? We look now at one of the prettiest cars in a very pretty field, it has to be said. Kamil Gjesdal in the Dynamics pink machine. He is 8 seconds ahead of this man, Joshua Campfield. Currently in 5th position, but maybe slightly out of sync with Dieder de Vlaeminck, who is 17 seconds behind. We will confirm this as well. Let's have a look at the stint lengths again. Now de Vlaeminck's pit stop. Look, that 22-second window in the middle where they sort of really changed it up. Yeah, he's literally done a lap and looks like they've come in like pretty much instantly. It's weird. Very weird. I'm wondering if any of the team can confirm anything from what's been going on. But car 2 has been doing well. I'm really glad that we finally got the livery on it as well. Thank you very much to Olivier Bultink for that, who sent over the new paint pack, so we could see just how pretty this Audi was. Love that shot through Blanchimont, where the cars really fly through the camera, over the curb. Joshua Campfield is doing a mega job though at holding 5th position. Let's see what his lap times are like. 2:19.3 last time round. 2:19.1 was Kemal Yagazoglu ahead of him, so he's certainly not off the pace, that's for sure. It's like 2/10 difference. Didi de Vlaming is about to come across the line. We'll see what his lap time looks like. 2:19.3 was the car ahead. He does a 2:19.4. So there's only a couple of tenths between their lap times, but the guys ahead are doing 2:18.5s, 2:18.2s, and then 2:16.6 from Olivier Bultink. Really is the class of the field at the moment. Again, that number 45 Lamborghini. 2:18.8 from Peter Lemkens last time round as well, bearing in mind that the cars ahead are doing 2:19.4s, 2:19.1s at best, 2:18.7 as well by Lemkens that time round, so he's certainly catching them bit by bit, although the gap is 31 seconds, so he's not going to feel a massive difference yet for quite a while. And here comes Olivier Bultink to have their 5th pit stop from the race leaders. And again, they will angle the car ready to get it out of the pit lane as soon as possible. And doesn't look like we're having the driver change this time round. Where's Christoph Rouse in all of this? He is just coming through. That's Campus, isn't it? Or is it Campser? Like Ed and I said before, there's so many corner names and so many different ideas of what corner is what at Spa Francorchamps. It can change depending on who you're watching and who is on your screen. Christoph brings the gorgeous Flemish Lamborghini into the final chicane once again to complete his 135th lap of the race. Olivier Bultink has already got going out of the pits, and as you see from the timer in the top left, is already on lap 136. Bavo Follon still holds on into 3rd place. Now, if we look at the rise and fall of certain teams in this race, you'll see that the top 3 are actually where they started in this one. I think once the pit stops, well, I was going to say once they synchronise, that might not be the case, but I think now with the amount of pit stop strategies we've got going on, I don't think there is a sort of normalise of it now or a synchronisation at all. So we just have to take it as it is time and time again. But we have 2 Lamborghinis leading 2 Porsches, then we have 3 of the Audis breaking the symmetry. And then it's a mix of Lamborghini, Porsche, Audi at the back. Jens Goossens is the car just ahead of Bavo Follen. Sounded like he lifted off somewhat there, actually. This is one of the two Zenom esports machines. Making his way around the final chicane. Across the line once again. You can see how much it's rubbered in there. And how much there's an absolute massive amount of marbles on the exit. There is on most corners now as well. You'll see a bunch of it there just on the exit where the AstroTurf is. Loads of marbles there as the tyres scrub the surface and chuck off those sort of rolled up bits of melting rubber. It's great that iRacing renders all of that, isn't it, really? That's Pepijn Mertens getting on. Pepijn doing 2:19.7 last time round, a little bit quicker than Jens Goossens, who did a 2:20.3. Just making their way down Pouon now, the number 3 car. As mentioned, this will be their highest scoring race of the season if they finish here. They scored 10 points in the opening round of the championship. And if they finish in 9th place now, they will get 18 points for their troubles here, thanks to the double points in this double-length race to end the season. Just means, of course, that there are more implications for teams who do not finish the race and that have trouble throughout it. It's a real curveball to throw it in for the end of the season. Well, there are only 2 cars on the same lap as Pepijn Mertens right now, and that is Jens Goossens ahead, who is 1 minute and 46 seconds clear, and then 7 seconds behind, just here, is Kurt Van Hoenacker. So, before I leave you for my break for a little bit, everybody, I just want to say thank you to everybody that has been watching from the very start. Really appreciate all of you sticking around and keeping us company here in the booth. I'll be with Hasse Raymer and then Ed May for the last couple of parts of the stream. I will be leaving you for a little bit now, though. Just need to go and have a break and so on. Just rest my eyes slightly from the screens and all sorts. It's a very bright day outside as well, so probably we'll have to shut the blinds in the office very soon. But we have Olivier Boltink and Sim District GT3 by Vibe. BMS Esports still leading the way. Flemish Sim Sports in second with Christoph Raas at the wheel. And then Bavo Follen in 3rd position. The only cars that are currently where they started. What we will do, though, is we'll go on board with a team that hasn't had much luck so far, actually. We'll go on board with the number 10 Audi of Kurt Van Hoenacker. Car 10 in P10 at the moment. I'll be with you in about 90 minutes, everybody, but thank you again for your patience. Thank you for watching Simracersworld TV. Don't forget to like the video as well, and of course subscribe if you have not already. As for now, everybody, I've been Chaz Draycott, and I will see you in a little bit.